Inna ki jai.
Jai.
Gaur Premanande.
Hare Hari Bol.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna,
Glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare
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 Krishna.
Krishna,
Glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Glory to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Hari Hari Bol. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Shami Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirbhishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Om Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Reading from Sri Caitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 17, text 227.
একদিন শ্রীবাসের মন্দিরে গোসাই নিত্যানন্দ সঙ্গে নৃত্য করে দুই ভাই।
One day, the two brothers, Lord Nityananda Prabhu and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, were dancing in the holy house of Srivas Thakur. You see, we have Srivasera Mandire, says in the verse Mandire in the house, but in the translation, the holy house. See that? Mandire is often the temple. So anyway, and then Lord Chaitanya is described here as Goshai, Goshai, Goshani. How do you say that?
গোসাই।
Goshain. Okay. Even though he's still a householder at this time. Okay. Text 228.
শ্রীবাস পুত্রের তাহা হইল পরলোক, তবু শ্রীবাসের চিত্তে না জন্মিল শোক।
At that time, a calamity took place. Srivas Thakur's son died. Yet, Srivas Thakur was not at all sorry.
মৃৎপুত্র মুখে কইল জ্ঞানের কথন, আপনে দুই ভাই হইলা শ্রীবাস নন্দন।
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu caused the dead son to speak about knowledge. And then the two brothers personally became the sons of Srivas Thakur. Purport. This incident is described as follows by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Amrita Pravaha Bhashya. One night, while Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was dancing with his devotees at the house of Srivas Thakur, one of Srivas Thakur's sons, who was suffering from some disease, died. Srivas Thakur was so patient, however, that he did not allow anyone to express sorrow by crying, for he did not want the kirtan going on at his house to be disturbed. Thus, kirtan continued without a sound of lamentation. But when the kirtan was over, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who could understand the incident, declared, "There must have been some calamity in this house." When he was then informed about the death of Srivas Thakur's son, he expressed his regret, saying, "Why was this news not given to me before?" He went to the place where the son was lying dead and asked him, "My dear boy, why are you leaving the house of Srivas Thakur?" The dead son immediately replied, "I was living in this house as long as I was destined to live here. Now that the time is over, I am going elsewhere, according to your direction. I am your eternal servant, a dependent living being. I must act only according to your desire. Beyond your desire, I cannot do anything. I have no such power." Hearing these words of the dead son, all the members of Srivas Thakur's family received transcendental knowledge. Thus, there was no cause for lamentation. This transcendental knowledge is described in Bhagavad Gita 2:13. Tata dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namukhyati. When someone dies, he accepts another body. Therefore, sober persons do not lament. After the discourse between the dead boy and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, funeral ceremonies were performed, and Lord Chaitanya assured Srivas Thakur, "You have lost one son, but Nityananda Prabhu and I are your eternal sons. We shall never be able to give up your company." This is an instance of transcendental relationship with Krishna. We have eternal transcendental relationships with Krishna as his servants, friends, fathers, sons, or conjugal lovers. When the same relationships are pervertedly reflected in this material world, we have relationships as the sons, fathers, friends, lovers, masters, or servants of others. But all these relationships are subject to termination within a definite period. If we revive our relationship with Krishna, however, by the grace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, our eternal relationship will never break to cause our lamentation. Om Ajnana Tiberandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Shayam Rupakada Maikyam Dadati Shapadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Before speaking, I need to ask permission and blessings from all devotees, particularly those who are senior by age or advancement in Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna. So this is a pastime of Lord Chaitanya along with his devotees after his liberation of Chandkazi. So here we see that the kirtan was going on at Srivas Thakur's house. And apparently Srivas Thakur had a number of sons. They're not named here. In the case of Advaita Acharya, we know he had 6 sons. 3 sons were devotees and 3 sons became Smarta Brahmins, impersonalists. The 3 devotee sons were named Gopal, Achyutananda, and Krishna Mishra. And his 3 sons who became Smarta Brahmins were Balaram, Swarup, and I don't remember the last one. But anyway, they're described a little bit in detail earlier in the Adi Lila. But Srivas Thakur's sons, I couldn't find anywhere where they're described. But anyway, this was one of Srivas Thakur's sons. So the Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Amrita Pravaha Bhashya was a commentary on this Chaitanya Caritamrita describes that this son must have had some disease and he died during the kirtan that was taking place at Srivas Thakur's house along with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, and Srivas Thakur. Others are not necessarily not mentioned. But even though Lord Chaitanya, being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he knows everything. We know from Bhagavad Gita, Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjana bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu vedana kaschana. He says, I know everything that's happening in the past, all things happening present, and all things yet to come. But me, nobody knows. Lord Krishna says that. So Lord Chaitanya, being Krishna himself in the guise and color of Radharani, Srimati Radharani, he knew full well that Srivas Thakur's son had expired. But on the wish of Srivas Thakur, his devotee, he continued the kirtan uh, for some time, for some hours. This even the kirtan was going on in the evening time, and it went on for several hours before the uh, event of this death of Srivas Thakur's son was told to him. So, what do we make of this? So, is this how we should be dealing with death? If somebody in our family dies, what do you think?
I've heard a real incident where such a thing happened, and it was just the day before the wedding of someone. And the family decided let them continue. And they were supposed to go to a different town. So they said, the family decided that let the marriage party continue, and we will not tell them.
Oh, okay.
They won't tell.
Of course, in this case, the interruption would have been to the
Keep that.
devotional service of the Lord. And in that case, it might be said as I don't know who the marriage partners were, but it might be some other thing. But usually we say in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, one of the first instructions after Lord Krishna tells Arjuna that the sober person is not bewildered by or deluded by the change of body, even at death, within this life and at death. And then the very next instruction he gives is that matra sparshas kaunteya
Yes, Itoshna
itoshna shukla dukkha da agama paino nityastang stitikshasva bharata. So he says that, just like the winter and summer seasons, happiness and distress are coming. And so you're not this body. You know that the body is a temporary covering for the self. One has to learn to tolerate those things. So in this case, even the death of the son, Srivas Thakur was tolerating, but not just tolerating, but because he didn't want to interrupt the Sankirtan, which is the devotional service of the Lord, which is going on in his home with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda Prabhu personally present. It's very interesting. And one should think that what happens at the time of death when someone hears the holy names of the Lord?
Go back home, back to Godhead.
Yes. So this son, he from that instruction, we can understand that this son must have gone back to the spiritual world because he was hearing the Sankirtan there of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his associates. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, from that sense, for the welfare of this son of Srivas Thakur, it was a glorious thing. Just like at the departure of Bhishmadev. Bhishmadev was lying on a bed of arrows, and so many sages and kings from all over the world and the universe came and witnessed his passing in the presence of Lord Krishna. He fixed his eyes on Lord Krishna in his Narayan form and left. So that was a glorious thing. It wasn't for a lamentation as ordinary people might consider. That's a very interesting point. I looked because this same pastime is described in the Caitanya Bhagavat, as we know that the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami doesn't elaborate on the pastimes that are there in the Chaitanya Bhagavat and have been elaborated by Vrindavan Das Thakur. So this is one of those pastimes that are quite elaborate, described in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. So I don't know, would you, I have it here, this Chaitanya Bhagavat, and it's actually very quite interesting.
I can open
You have that?
it. I'll quickly open it up.
It's chapter 25, text number 24 to 33. There's a
Which
couple of very interesting.
That is book 2, right? Madhyakan.
I don't know what book. I mean, I
And
have
what
it.
is the
Part three, and chapter 25,
and
text 24.
what's the name of the chapter? The title of the chapter.
Let's see.
Is it okay? It should be the Lord displays his universal form to Advait. The discourse. Okay, I got it. And which one did you say the text?
24 through 33.
Okay.
Yeah, see? Ek Din. Started with Ek Din, same as our verse here. So well, I didn't think we'd read the Bengali, but here let's go down for the translation. One day, as the Lord was dancing in the house of Srivas, the devotees headed by Srivas happily engaged in Sankirtan. By the arrangement of Providence, the ladies watched the son of Srivas leave his body because of some disease, as Sri Sachinandan was dancing in ecstasy. The sound of crying filled the house of Srivas. Srivas Pandit therefore immediately went inside the room and found that his son had left his body. Being most sober and conversant with the intricacies of spiritual science, Srivas began to solace the ladies. You all know the glories of Krishna. Control your crying and pacify your minds. A person who even once hears the name of Krishna at the time of death attains the abode of Krishna, even if he is most sinful. That Lord is now personally dancing here, and his servants, headed by Brahma, are glorifying his qualities. Is it proper to lament for a person who leaves his body at such a time? If I can ever become as fortunate as this child, I will consider my life successful. Then what follows is a description of the same event that it's included in this purport of the Gaudiya Bhashya, but it seems that this has been compiled or written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He goes over the same event, but in a little more detail. So I thought we could read this also. You'll see, it's quite interesting.
So should I read
Would you like to read the Bengali?
I'll try to. প্রদোষ সময় শ্রীবাস আঙ্গনে সাঙ্গপানে গোরামণি শ্রীহরি কীর্তনে নাচে নানা রঙ্গে উঠিল মঙ্গল ধ্বনি.
In the evening, Lord Gauranga danced in various ways within Srivasa's enclosed courtyard, as the auspicious vibration of Hari's name filled the atmosphere. So his house wasn't inside the house, but there was a courtyard that was surrounded by walls. It's still there in Mayapur. Yeah.
মৃদঙ্গ মাদল বাজে করতাল মাঝে মাঝে জয়তুর প্রভুর নাটন দেখি সকলের হইল সন্তাপ দূর.
The kirtan was accompanied by mridangas, drums, kartals, and occasional cries of Jai. The miseries of everyone who saw the Lord's dancing were destroyed.
অখণ্ড প্রেমেতে মাতল তখন সকল ভকতগণ আপন পাশরি গোরাচান্দে ঘেরি নাচে গায়ে অনুক্ষণ।
The devotees became intoxicated in uninterrupted ecstatic love. They forgot themselves as they continually danced around Gaurachandra.
এ মতো সময় দৈব ব্যাধি যোগে শ্রীবাসের অন্তঃপুরে তনয় বিয়োগে নারীগণ শোকে প্রকাশ উচ্চৈস্বরে।
At that time, the son of Srivas left his body within the house because of a disease inflicted by Providence, and the ladies loudly expressed their grief.
রন্ধন উঠিলে হবে রস ভঙ্গ ভক্তি বিনোদ ডরে শ্রীবাস অমনি বুঝিল কারণ বসিল আপন ঘরে।
Bhakti Vinod feared that if the crying became too loud, the Lord's ecstatic dancing would be disturbed. Realizing the situation, Srivas quickly went inside the house. Now this is very interesting. I don't know if Bhakti Vinod is another name for Srivas, or is Bhakti Vinod Thakur saying he was there? I don't know. There's no commentary or further description of that. We maybe keep that in mind as we continue to read. Do you follow? You follow?
Or could it be like at the end of songs, they have the name of the person who's written that, and it's included in that song itself? Could it be something like that?
I don't know. It might be. It might be. Let's continue and we'll see. We'll see.
প্রবেশিয়া অন্তঃপুরে নারীগণে শান্ত করে শ্রীবাস অমিয়া উপদেশে। শুনো পাগলিনীগণ শোক করো অকারণ কিবা দুঃখ থাকে কৃষ্ণাবেশে।
After entering the house, Srivas solaced the ladies with his nectarian instructions. Listen, you foolish ladies. You are uselessly lamenting. How can distress remain in the presence of ecstatic love for Krishna?
কৃষ্ণ নিত্য যার শোক কবু নাহি তার অনিত্য আসক্তি সর্বনাশ। আসিয়াছ এ সংসারে কৃষ্ণ ভজিবার তারে নিত্য তত্ত্বে করাহ বিলাস।
One who has accepted Krishna as his eternal son never laments. Temporary attachment is the cause of one's ruin. You have come to this material world to worship Krishna, so remain joyful on the spiritual platform.
এ দেহে জবৎ স্থিতি কর কৃষ্ণচন্দ্রে রতি কৃষ্ণ জান ধন জন প্রাণ। এ দেহ অনুগ যত ভাই বন্ধু পতিসুত অনিত্য সম্বন্ধ বলি মানো।
As long as you remain in this body, become attached to Krishna and accept Krishna as your wealth, companion, and life. You should understand that bodily relationships with your brothers, friends, husbands, and children are all temporary.
কেবা কারো প্রতিশত অনিত্য সম্বন্ধকৃত চাহিলে রাখিতে নারে তারে করম বিপক ফলে সুত হয় বসে কোলে কর্মক্ষয় আরো রইতে নারে।
Who is anyone's husband or son? These are simply temporary relationships. Even if one wants to keep such a relationship forever, one cannot do so. As a result of one's karma, one becomes a son and sits on someone's lap. But when the results of his karma are exhausted, he cannot remain there.
ইথে সুখ দুঃখ মানি অধোগতি লভে প্রাণী কৃষ্ণপদ হইতে পড়ে দূরে শোক সম্বরিয়া এবে নামানন্দে মজ সবে ভকতি বিনোদ বাঞ্ছাপুরে
Living entities who find happiness and distress in these relationships become degraded and fall far away from the lotus feet of Krishna. Therefore, control your lamentation and become merged in the ecstasy of chanting Krishna's names. Then, Bhakti Vinod's desires will be fulfilled.
ধন জন দেহ গেহ কৃষ্ণে সমর্পণ করিয়াছ শুদ্ধ চিত্তে করহ স্মরণ
Remember with a purified heart that you have surrendered your wealth, companions, body, and house to Krishna.
তবে কেন মম সুত বলি কর দুঃখ কৃষ্ণ নীল নির্জন তাহে তার সুখ
Why do you lament, O my son? Krishna has taken his dear one for his own pleasure.
কৃষ্ণ ইচ্ছা মতে সব ঘটনাটহে সুখ দুঃখ জ্ঞান অবিদ্যা কল্পনা
Everything happens according to the will of Krishna. To derive one's happiness and distress from these temporary incidents is the product of ignorance.
যাহা ইচ্ছা করে কৃষ্ণ তাই জানো ভালো তজিও আপন ইচ্ছা ঘুচাও জঞ্জাল
Accept that Krishna's will is beneficial. Give up your selfish desires and be freed from contamination.
রায় কৃষ্ণ ন্যায় কৃষ্ণ পালে কৃষ্ণ সবে রাখে কৃষ্ণ মারে কৃষ্ণ ইচ্ছা করে জবে
Krishna gives, Krishna takes, and Krishna maintains everyone. Krishna protects, and Krishna kills whenever he desires.
কৃষ্ণ ইচ্ছা বিপরীত যে করে বাসনা তার ইচ্ছা নাহি ফলে সে পায় যাতনা
Oops. The desires of one who opposes the desires of Krishna will never be fulfilled. Such a person achieves only misery.
ত্যাজিয়া সকল শোক শুনো কৃষ্ণ নাম পরমানন্দ পাবে পূর্ণ হবে কাম
Give up all lamentation and hear the name of Krishna. Then you will feel ecstasy and your desires will be fulfilled.
ভকতি বিনোদ মাগে শ্রীবাস চরণে আত্মনিবেদন শক্তি জীবনে মরণে
Bhakti Vinod begs at the feet of Srivas for the strength to fully surrender to the Lord in life and in death. So here it seems that the Bhakti Vinod is definitely different than Srivas Thakur. The Bhakti Vinod is not a name for Srivas Thakur. This is very interesting. So any reflections, observations, considerations? Does this apply to any of us? What do you think?
It does apply to us.
Prananath Prabhu, you were going to say something.
No, Prabhu. Yes, I was going to say yes, of course.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, Hare Krishna. Shashi Shekhar, Prabhu.
Yes. Well, maybe it seems harsh to consider things like this, but the reality is that people are always coming and going and dying. And so to make sense of it in this way can give us some peace, because ultimately we have to deal with the reality of people dying and leaving this world. So on one side, it could seem difficult to accept, but on the other side, it does give us some solace to understand that it's Krishna's will as to why things happen, and lamenting over them ultimately doesn't have any value. If we can perceive it as something that is inside of what Krishna wants, maybe it can help us overcome that lamentation.
Yes, well said. Well said. So the verse in the Bhagavad Gita, asochan and vasocastvam pragyavadanscha basase gatasum agatasum cha nanu sochanti pandita. Lord Krishna explains to Arjuna that a learned person is not a pandit doesn't go on lamenting, doesn't lament for such things as the death of the body. And that's also that verse is sometimes cited as you mentioned, it's a little seems a little bit harsh. So I point out anusochanti means going on lamenting, going on anusochanti, going on lamenting. So in this case, the lamentation, going on lamenting means that the lamentation is going to interfere with performing your duty or your regulative service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here Srivas is certainly he left the kirtan here. Didn't he leave the kirtan to talk with the ladies? So he's leaving the kirtan first. So he's dealing with the lamentation a little bit, but then in a short time, he doesn't want the kirtan to be interrupted. He's going to go back and also participate again in the kirtan, because that's the prime benediction for everybody in this Kali Yuga. Very interesting. Very interesting. Bhakti Vinod. Okay, so let's read a little more here.
It's not easy with ladies, Prabhu.
What's that?
It's not that easy with women, ladies.
Yeah, it's not
Men
easy with
can.
guys. It's not as easy with guys either, but it might be one or the other. But
Men can little bit, but not with ladies. I don't know.
because ladies have a soft heart more than men, usually.
But it's not that easy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's not
Prabhu is
easy.
really right, Prabhu. Because sometimes my Prabhu don't know how to cry.
Yes, it's not easy. Yes.
If we know that we are hearing all Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, everything, that is Krishna's hands, everything. But at the time, I don't
Yes,
know,
at the time
not
it's difficult.
easy.
Even after hearing Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was in the battle of Kurukshetra, right?
That's true.
And at one point, I think it was, I don't know, day 7, I think, Abhimanyu was killed.
Yeah.
So what did Arjuna do? What did he do?
Cry.
Lament.
He lamented. Yeah. Even after hearing Bhagavad Gita just a few days before, but the lamentation didn't interfere with his, he continued his service. That was the point. Yeah. So he had thoughts of giving up the battle, but no, Krishna had requested the battle. An interesting point here is earlier in the Adi Lila, in the description of Advaita Acharya's sons, he had 6 sons. One of them was named Gopal. And Gopal went with Advaita Acharya, it's described there, and also in the Madhya Lila, with his father to participate in the Rath Yatra ceremony. They went from Shantipur to Puri, and they were dancing. Gopal was dancing along with his father and Lord Chaitanya Nityananda Prabhu in front of around the Gundicha temple. And all of a sudden, Gopal fainted. He fainted. And it looked like people were wondering, maybe he died. And, somebody can have like a heart murmur or something, like some heart problem. So he just fell and he was unconscious and it didn't seem like he could be revived. So Advaita Acharya took him on his lap, his Gopal, and he was crying. He was crying. And the devotees, you know what they did? The devotees around? They chanted the Nishringa mantra. They chanted Nishringa. So they're all chanting Nishringa, and some of them were crying also. And then Lord Chaitanya came, and Lord Chaitanya touched him and said, "Get up and chant the holy name." So then he was immediately revived, and he began chanting Gopal. Yeah. So it doesn't say that he died. It doesn't say that, but somehow it looked like he was near death somehow by that whatever during his exertion during the kirtan. So it's a little different than this pastime. Similar but different. So what do you make of that?
It's sort of the movement they might be, but women, they just, I see he must have stopped right away, but
Advaita Acharya was crying. He was a man. I mean, he's a Purusha, the supreme Purusha. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not discounting what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, but in this case, he was lamenting. But Lord Chaitanya, he intervened. So I mean, different pastimes. In this pastime, Lord Chaitanya and Srivas Thakur, they wanted to really emphasize this particular, teaching of the temporariness of the material relations in the body, with the body. So this is, whereas in that it's a different teaching there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We do lament. We do cry, but when we stop based on this little bit of knowledge that we have, I think.
Good. Other comments? Okay, next one, Sabu.
শোভু মেলি বালক ভাগ্য বিচারি চরবি মোহ শোক চিত্ত বিকারি.
All of you consider the good fortune of this child, and then give up your illusion and lamentation, which overcome one's heart.
14 ভুবনপতি নন্দকুমার শচীনন্দন ভেলো নদিয়া অবতার.
The son of Naunda, who is the Lord of the 14 worlds, has now incarnated in Nadia as the son of Sachi. What do you make of the Naunda? What do you make of that?
Typo.
What do you make of that, Naunda?
I think they've tried to spell it like we pronounce it in Bengali.
No, I think it's a mistake. That's what I think, but I don't know. Okay, next.
সহি গোকুল চন্দ অঙ্গনে মোর নাচাই ভক্ত সহ আনন্দ বিভোর.
The same moon-like personality of Gokul is now absorbed in ecstatic dancing with his devotees in my courtyard.
শুনত নাম গান বালক শুনত নাম গান বালক মোর চড়লো দেহ হরিপ্রীতি বিভোর.
This child of mine left his body while listening to the chanting of the holy names and absorbed in love for Hari.
So it should be chadlo deho, left his body.
Yeah, there's a few mistakes here, right?
Oichan ভাগ্য জব ভাই হামারা তো বাহু হও ভবসাগর পারা।
If I can become fortunate like him, then I will cross this material ocean.
তুহু সবু বিচারি এহি বিচারা কানে করবি শোক চিত্ত বিকারা।
You should all appreciate his good fortune. Why should you trouble your hearts with lamentation?
স্থির নাহি হওবি যদি উপদেশ বঞ্চিত হওবি রসে অবশেষে।
If you are not pacified by my instructions, then you will ultimately be deprived of the mellows of Krishna consciousness.
পশিবু হাম সুর ততিনি মাহে ভকতি বিনোদ প্রমাদ দেখে তাহে।
Then I will drown myself in the waters of the Ganges. The prospect of this frightens Bhaktivinoda.
শ্রীবাস বচন শ্রবণ করিয়া সাধ্বী পতিব্রতগণ শোক পরিহারী মৃত শিশু রাখি হরি রসে দিল মন।
After hearing the words of Srivas, the chaste ladies gave up their lamentation over the dead child and fixed their minds on the nectar of Hari's names.
শ্রীবাস তখন আনন্দে মাতিয়া অঙ্গনে আইল পুন নাচে গোরাসনে সকল পাশরি গায় নন্দসুত গুণ।
Srivas then returned to the courtyard filled with ecstasy. So this is after his son died, right? He forgot everything as he danced with Gauranga and sang the glories of Nanda's son.
চারিদণ্ড রাত্রে মারিল কুমার অঙ্গনে কেহ না জানে শ্রীনাম মঙ্গলে তৃতীয়া প্রহর রজনী অতীত গানে।
Although Srivas' son died early in the night, no one in the courtyard knew. They passed the entire night chanting the auspicious holy names.
কীর্তন ভঙ্গিলে কহে গৌরহরি আজি কেন পাই দুঃখ বুঝি এই গৃহে কিছু অমঙ্গল ঘটিয়া হরিল সূক্ষ্ম।
As the kirtan came to an end, Gaurhari asked, "Why am I feeling unhappy today? I think some misfortune has occurred in this house and taken away my happiness."
তবে ভক্তজন নিবেদন করে শ্রীবাস শিশুর কথা শুনি গোরা রায় বলে হায় হায় মরমে পায়ু ব্যথা।
The devotees then related the news about Srivas' son to the Lord. On hearing about his death, Lord Gauranga exclaimed, "Alas, this pains my heart."
কেন না কহিলে আমারে তখন বিপদ সংবাদ সবে ভকতি বিনোদ ভকত বৎসল স্নেহেতে মজিল তবে।
Why didn't any of you inform me of this calamity when it happened? Bhaktivinoda says that the Lord then became filled with affection for his devotees.
প্রভুর বচন তখন শুনিয়া শ্রীবাস লোটায়া ভূমি বলে শুনো নাথ তব রসভঙ্গ সহিতে না পারি আমি।
After hearing the Lord's words, Srivas fell to the ground and humbly replied, "O Lord, I could not tolerate seeing your ecstasy disturbed." So in the previous verse, it said that the Lord became filled with affection for his devotees. what would you say is the cause of that, his affection there? So you know that they didn't tell him about the death of Srivas Thakur's son, and he's feeling some discomfort about that. But when they say, "Oh, we didn't want to disturb your ecstasy," so he becomes filled with affection. Why that?
To see their
What do
devotion, to know about the level of their devotion.
in what way? Yes, go on further. How is it shown?
By not disturbing the kirtan.
Yes, I mean, if it was
Waiting.
just an ordinary person's, but this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All things, all activities are meant for his pleasure. Yat karoshi, yat ashnasi, yat johosi, dadasi, yat tapasyasi tot kante, yat tat kavishan madarpanam. Everything is not just one of us, but everything is meant for his pleasure. So the fact that his devotees would not become disturbed or uh, distracted from their devotional service of the chanting of the holy names, even to the level when a son dies, that was Lord Chaitanya was appreciative of that, as you said. Yeah, yeah. Shall we go any further with this or not? Are you with me?
Yes.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay.
একটি তনয় মরিয়াছে নাথ, তাহে মোর কিবা দুঃখ, যদি সব মরে তোমারে হেরিয়া, তবু তো পাইব সুখ।
Oh Lord, only one of my sons died. Why should I be distressed? Even if they all die, I would be happy just by seeing your face. This is so apparently he had more than one son, Srivas Thakur, even though we don't have their names, at least not here. Yeah.
তব নৃত্যভঙ্গ হইলে আমার মরণ হইতে হরি, তাই কুসংবাদ না দিল তোমারে, বিপদ আশঙ্কা করি।
If your dancing was disturbed, I would have died. To prevent this disturbance, I did not give you this bad news.
এবে আজ্ঞা দেহ মৃত লয়, সৎকার করুণ সবে, এতেক শুনিয়া গোরা দ্বিজমণি কান্দিতে লাগিল তবে।
O Lord, now order us so that we can perform the child's last rites. On hearing this, Gauranga, the Cressmanus, began to cry.
কেমনে এই সবে ছাড়িয়া যাইব, পরণ বিকল হয়, সে কথা শুনিয়া ভকতি বিনোদ মনেতে পাইল ভয়।
The Lord said, how will I give up everyone and leave? If I do, my life will be ruined. On hearing these words, Bhaktivinoda became frightened. Later, when he's saying, if I give up everyone and leave, what's that about? What's that about? Any idea?
Meaning he would just ignore what has happened and just walk away. I think he's reciprocating the love that they showed, and he's going to do something that will make them see that knowledge. He's going to make the dead child speak, and at least that's what we heard earlier. So
Yeah. So later, that statement there is the commentary is that he was foreshadowing or predicting or telling that he's soon going to be taking sannyas.
Mm.
So it's very painful because of the love that all of his devotees show, that he's, as you mentioned, he's appreciating their devotion, their service, their love. And so he's crying like that. Anyway, this is this goes on quite a long time, this pastime. Anybody have any additions or other observations about? So as you said, it's what's going to happen is Lord Chaitanya is going to have the dead child speak and give transcendental knowledge, which is what we would call a miracle, right? Usually that doesn't happen. Have you ever seen that happen? If it did, you'd be shocked, right? There's another time it happened. If you remember, when another time it happened, something similar.
Chitraketu Maharaj,
Yes,
son,
yes. How's that? What happened then?
he died, and then they were all crying and then lamenting, and then Narad Muni Angira Rishi made him alive, and then he said, which parents are you from? I had so many parents in different lifetimes. So who are you? I
Yes,
don't
yes.
know.
Yes, so in that case, they had Chittaketu Maharaj had many. He wanted an issue, but he couldn't. So then he had all these wives, and only one of them gave a son. So the other wives became jealous and killed him. So then Chittaketu Maharaj was lamenting so much, and then, as you say, Narad and Angira, they brought him back to life, or they had him speak transcendental knowledge, which enlightened Chittaketu there. So similar experience as here. This is Lord Chaitanya directly, but at this time, the departed son was witnessing and hearing the chanting of the holy name. So that was especially auspicious. Whereas in the case of Chitraketu, we don't find that was the case. The ladies, they just killed him and gave him some poison. I think, was it poison to the child? Yeah. So then this is about lamentation of the passing of family members. Of course, it'll natural lamentation will be there, but not so much that it interferes with chanting japa or engaging in devotional service. How about if the spiritual master leaves? Is there any suggestion about transcendental activity at that time?
It should
Is
be
it
the
this? Go ahead.
same. I think it should be the same. It can be difficult, but it should be the same as what we have read today. The kirtan, undisturbed kirtan.
Any other opinions? No? No other opinion? Actually,
I think the sadness is greater, but the point about I think the spiritual master would want us to continue our devotional service, but I think he's guiding us in our path, and but I think the devotional service should continue.
yeah. So in the I believe it's the fourth canto.
Mhm.
There's a description of it's an allegorical story or a symbolic story of a queen whose husband dies. And, she arranges for the funeral pyre, and she's about to go in, and then she meets she has great lamentation. And Srila Prabhupada, there's several purports where he describes that he compares it to the disappearance of the guru. And at that point, he says that at the disappearance of the guru, it is the right thing for the disciple to lament. So it's not all the same. Sometimes for festivals in the Hare Krishna movement, we have a big feast, and sometimes we fast. It's not all the same. So when the spiritual master leaves, we're not lamenting for him, but we're lamenting because of our inability to continue to serve and have the opportunity to serve this great soul. So it's on a spiritual platform, that lamentation. When Madhavendra Puri was near death, he was lamenting. And he was lamenting, "Oh, I am so unfortunate. I've not been able to achieve Mathura." And one of his disciples, named Ramchandra Puri, said, "What kind of this is not proper for a guru. This lamentation, you have to be, free from lamentation." Brahma bhuta prasanatma nasochati nakankshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. So, as a result of that criticism of his spiritual master, he fell down, became an impersonalist, and a criticizer even of Lord Caitanya. So there's lamentation on the material level, but there's also spiritual lamentation, and that's sometimes called vipralamba. I am so unfortunate that I cannot make progress in Krishna consciousness. Lord Caitanya said, "Oh, my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction upon the living beings, and therefore you have hundreds and millions of names. And of all these names, they have all your transcendental potency." Then there's a lamentation at the end. What's that lamentation? "But unfortunate as I am, I have no attraction for them." Yeah. Hari Hari Vipale Janama Gonainu Manushya Janma Paya Radha Krishna na Bhajiya Janaya Shuniya Bishkainu. Oh, I've got this human form of life, but I'm so unfortunate that I have not properly worshipped Radha Krishna. This kind of lamentation is spiritually purifying, whereas lamentation just for the body is, as Srivas Thakur is explaining, is a diversion, a distraction from devotional service. Does that make sense? All right. Just wanted to make that a little bit, contrast that a little bit. All righty. Thank you so much for your attention. Any other questions or observations? Okay. Pancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha pitana bhavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha.
Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.
Jai.